This is James's studio where he composed, and this is how it was by the time he passed away. This is like his music. First of all, this room is like the inside of his mind. So this is actually where he composed. This is piano. And this is pretty much where he spent his day. He had a very unique style of playing the piano, kind of had a childlike quality to it. It's kind of funny that to make the sustained sounds of the strings, didn't use the piano pedals. He played like, I can't play, but if he was going to play a C major chord, he'd just play like this, a very light touch. So it would be like very reverberant. As he'd play the music, there'd be this big sonic mass that he would create, and then he would sing the melodies in this falsetto voice. So it didn't sound like the final score, but it was very beautiful in its own way. I mean, his music was so complicated. It was, well, at least early when he had big orchestras, there'd be a big orchestra, a choir, sometimes a children's choir and an adult choir. There would be these ethnic instruments that brought in with people that couldn't read music, and it would be completely, so complicated to put together. And I almost feel like the more complicated the music was and the more complex the orchestration, the more he just liked it. I think it started to become really alive for him when it created a huge, I feel like, sound mass, a big three-dimensional tapestry. And that's what I'd say this room is. But it's not made out of musical notes. It's made out of objects. I just think it's a really unique creation. I think this is a piece of art itself, and I can't keep it this way forever. So I just think to have some kind of record of what it looked like. His house is like this, the bedroom's like this, the flat in London is like this. I have rooms full of this stuff that is in, we have a lot of buildings. They're all full of stuff he bought like this. Becky and her friends would come here, like they're 5, 3, 4, 5 years old. He would let them all play in here and he'd play with them. He loved to play with the kids. And that's pretty much what he did. He played with them. If they danced with scarves, he danced with scarves.
So my sister wanted a dachshund, just one, and we ended up with 3. And since those 3, we've ended up with 2 more. And it's one of the, like the spares. It's a spare thing. Like you get one, you get multiples. They just sort of showed up, and they're very intense animals with very intense personalities. And just nothing was average. It's not like you got the golden retriever that you'd play fetch with and sleep on the bed and the ground or whatever. It's every dog or every animal, every contribution that he had to our family was way beyond average. Nothing was ever normal, whatever normal is.
Yeah, he's a little boy, always. And when you would go out with him, or when I would go out with him, it was always like going out with a magical child. And it was captivating. He was super bright.
Like my mom was saying, you know, he functioned and he existed on a different plane. He existed in a different dimension. And I think life was almost, it was like an out-of-body experience being with him. And I just imagine him sitting back and watching all these people and just kind of, you know, moving things around because he wasn't in it, you know, he wasn't in the trenches. He was, as a person, somewhat removed, and he could manipulate things from afar and then retreat to the magical kingdom of solace.
I remember asking him, I like to paint, and I remember asking him where he got his inspiration and how he got into the mindset to work or find themes. And he said, well, he's completely serious. He said, well, I close my eyes and I imagine that I am slowly climbing up a very tall pine tree. And it's a windy day, and I listen to the wind blowing through the pine needles, and then I can hear the melody come out. He is very mystical, I guess, in his way. I tend to remember him for the melodies or the feelings, but really his gift was that he could make a movie play. I mean, it would have all of this feeling and emotional life and depth with the score, and without the score it was sort of empty. And I've seen scenes that were with other music and then with his music, and that's what he was actually really good at, is evoking emotion and feeling out of music. He would say himself, and did at the end of his life, that he had Asperger's. And he definitely had a different kind of neurological wiring and had very difficult for him to understand people's emotions. And he would often ask you, if you're screaming at the top of your lungs, are you angry? Like he couldn't read. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it'd have to be really extreme for him to get the emotion. And he was often confused. And if you think about, he can't read it or exchange it really with people. I mean, he could exchange intimacy and closeness, but the emotional conversation wasn't really available to him. And then you think, well, he does it in music. That's where he could communicate emotionally. I met James when I was very young, and I don't know why I understood him. As he got more and more successful, he had to do less and less of the activities that normally people do. I remember him coming home at one point saying, you know what? I don't have to go out to dinner with the director anymore because I don't have to do that in order to get hired, so I'm not doing that anymore. So he had the, I would say, almost bad fortune to be able to run his life and live his life exactly as he pleased. But it made him, I think, more isolated as he got older in particular. I always felt like I took care of him and that he was alone in the world and needed help.
He was a weirdo. He was an artist. I mean, he was magic.
I would just sit outside and listen, and it was always very evocative, the music, and then it went with the outdoors and the trees. People would say, well, you have his music, which is a listener's perspective, but you don't have the person.